Oh, yeah. Welcome in, everybody, to Cream of the Crop, a fantasy hockey podcast presented by Apples and Genos. I'm your host, Blake Creamer. Give me a follow over on X and at Blue Sky at Blake Creamer AG. I'm doing stuff over there. Blue Sky is actually an interesting one. I forget that it exists, so I just don't post over there, but I'm doing my best. I'm getting back in there to Blue Sky. Also, Apples and Genos has a Discord link in the description. Click it, get in there. Well over 1,500 fantasy managers getting the biz. We also have a YouTube. Please head over there, give us a subscribe, thumb it up, and do all that business. Thank you for your service. Today, I've got just a friend of the show and an absolute unit, a legend in the game. Corey Sznajder from All Three Zones, buddy. Thanks so much for making some time for us and joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. Appreciate the intro there.
Yeah, buddy. I can't sing your praises enough. I'm telling you, buddy. I gotta up my game. I think I undersold it a bit. So there you go. You know what's funny? Today is I always think of you when I'm having you on, and then I just think about music and you because I know you're a big fan of music. And I got my Spotify Wrapped today. Did you get any of that with Spotify?
I did that when I saw it was available.
Yeah, and again, my kids just trashing my Spotify Wrapped. My number one artist was do you know the game Mega Man from Nintendo?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you're probably a bit young, but yeah, my son loves listening to Mega Man music. So yeah, my whole Spotify Wrapped is just a bunch of Mega Man songs. So yeah, I don't know. Is that your experience as well?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I do have like a playlist I listen to in the car, like if I'm taking my daughter anywhere, but it's mostly just songs that don't have like a lot of like bad language or swearing in them. Right. So it's nothing too crazy like my kids hijack my Spotify or whatever. But
this is terrible. I love Spotify Wrapped, and I just haven't had a good one for like 3 years. Damn those kids. All right. They're very, very selfish, just taking over my I don't know where I'm going.
I always like seeing that though, like when people post theirs to see like what music is from them and what music is from their kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we always have music on at the house. I don't know. Are you guys like that? Like, I just feel like we always have a soundtrack going.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I have music on like the TV. Sometimes it's background music, like lo-fi kind of stuff. A lot of times I use like those pre-made Spotify playlists where it's like chill morning or like or something like that. Usually if it's just me and my daughter, it's a lot of like oldies or classic rock.
Okay.
It's like it's zone out kind of thing.
Actually, well, I am very proud. One of my son's favorite songs is the workout theme from Rocky IV. You know, when he's climbing up the snowy mountain and he gets to the top, he's like Drago, like he screams. I don't know if you've seen Rocky IV, but that at least that is on my Spotify Wrapped, and that gives me a lot of joy. So,
I think the only kid song on mine was the Shakira song from Zootopia.
You know, that could be worse. All right. That's a good movie. I saw it in the theater. All right, let's move on. Corey, what the hell am I doing here? This is insane. I'm excited to have you on. Thank you so much for making time. I have you on usually in the off season, but I'm really excited to get you on in season here because I want to get some of your real-time takes on a couple of players. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I've got just some questions that I have about some sustainability of some certain players. Just getting your takes based on what you're seeing out there. And before we even get into that, can you talk to me a little bit about just what you've seen so far in your tracking? What are some of the biggest surprises so far? Like, we're at the quarter mark of the season pretty much. Has there been anything that's kind of come out of left field for you or anything that's surprised you?
Well, I haven't really had time to take like a 200-foot view of it just yet, but I have noticed that I feel like scoring chances are more at a premium now than they used to be. Well, I shouldn't say that. I feel like there's been more of a focus on trying to get like less of a focus on shot volume than there was before. Right. Like I'm seeing fewer teams kind of just like bomb away from the point now than they used to. Fewer teams taking just blank shots everywhere. And there's been more of an effort to kind of like work the puck around, work the cycle a little more, look for the extra play to kind of generate more of a high danger, high expected goal type of look. So like the shot counts in my sample have kind of taken a pretty big dip the last couple of years, especially this year. Like if you look at like my game recaps that I post, like I usually post like one or two every day, but like there's a lot of like shot counts, like shots attempted like in the 20s now instead of in the 40s or the 50s like they used to be. So it's been kind of interesting to follow that. I don't know if like the league has gotten stingier with tracking shots, or if it's more of like an approach from teams to kind of go for a more higher quality type of approach compared to previous seasons.
Yeah, isn't it like, is goal scoring up this year? Like that's something I forget to look at usually, but I feel like I saw that on X somewhere. Like, yeah, goal scoring's up, like goalie save percentage is way down. So
Yeah,
is that,
save percentage has like taken a pretty big nosedive the last couple of seasons.
yeah. So that's interesting to me. So it's like they're not shooting as much, but the quality of the shots are higher. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing, because like the league average in shots has been going down pretty significantly the last couple of seasons, at least in my sample. And like scoring chances have stayed pretty steady for the most part, like hasn't really fluctuated that much. So it's kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, I read an interesting article there on The Athletic. I think it was from Fluto Shinzawa, and it was just regarding power plays and how that, like you were saying, people aren't just really bombing from the point anymore. They're trying to get in tighter, in close to the net, and using kind of that overload, a la like what the Panthers did last year, and just things like that. I wonder if that's something that is a trend that you've noticed, is just they're focusing on getting in tighter into the net instead of just like a low percentage shot from the point.
Yeah, I do know that there was a interesting article about 5-on-5 scoring kind of going down this year. So the power play is more important than ever to get right.
Yeah.
Like it's way more of a game changer than it used to be. But but yeah, I haven't really looked at it from like a long-term point of view just yet, just because it's early. I'm still trying to get everything on my end done first, and then like around January is kind of when I take like a look at everything.
Yeah, you're right in the thick of it there. This is awesome stuff. So, can you tell us a little bit? So, maybe just give us, I do this every time, but just in case someone isn't exactly aware of what all three zones is, maybe just that elevator pitch for all three zones, what it is you track. And then you have some new stuff that's sort of coming out. So, maybe you can talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so what I do is I collect a lot of data that the league doesn't. So so like I track data like scoring chances, I track who sets up the shots, like playmaking, I track zone entries, zone exits, basically track quality of breakouts, quality of how good teams are off the rush. And the last couple of years I've been adding more layers to that to see like how teams are generating their rush looks. Like, are they a team that kind of that feasts off counterattacks, or are they a team that kind of creates their own rushes from regrouping or from their own breakouts? So things like that to kind of get a little closer look at how teams play, to maybe look at how a certain player might fit in the system, how they might match up with somebody in the playoffs, how they can exploit certain things like in in the playoffs. So yeah, it's a lot of detailed hockey data, and through that I make things like player cards, I make team scatter plots, show every player like where they stack up compared to the rest of the league. And I also make team cards too, and I'm hoping to add some more stuff this year with like all this new data that I kind of have like in waiting in the wings.
Man, I love this stuff. It's so awesome. So I know you have some player cards that are going to be released here shortly. I wanted to ask you too about that collaboration you do with Jay Fresh there, and when those new sheets or when that data is going to be released as well. Is that something you do sort of at the halfway mark of the season?
I try to get it done like earlier. Like this year, I was able to get player cards done pretty early, or because I have a new tier in my with all three zones. So a few people signed up for this thing called the Bedard tier, which means I track their team's games like right after they happen, like within a day or two. And I had a pretty big sample of like 5 or 6 teams that I could kind of roll out a little early. But for the whole league, I usually get those out I get those out like around this time of year, like early December. I think that's what it was last season. So within the next couple of weeks, I'm just tying up some loose ends with some of the lower sample teams in my data set, just so nobody's left behind.
Yeah, I can't wait for that, man. That's I actually feel a little bit blind just of how much I use your information in the off season, and now that there's only just a little bit of it available. Like I need to get in that Bedard tier ASAP. All right, I just need more money. I honestly do. I need to get a second job. I think that's money well spent. But obviously you can see our listeners, this stuff is to me extremely valuable when you're trying to value players for fantasy, right? Because you're looking at things like shot assist, chance assist, and something that you sort of got me on with your own stuff is entries leading to scoring chances. Those are things that I'm looking at, on a regular basis when I'm trying to value players based on your stuff there. So thanks so much for that, my man. Let's get into a couple players while I've got you here, because I've been talking about some of these players all season. I do buy lows and I do sell highs with fantasy, and I try and see what's sustainable and what's not. And I wanted to get your take on some of these players. And first off, I got to talk about your boy, Martin Necas, the leading point getter in the league. Did anybody see this coming?
I mean, everybody knew there was another level to his game. I just didn't think it would be where he's on pace for like 140 points. That, like, what he's doing now is unprecedented, especially for a Hurricanes player. Because, if you go back in franchise history since the team relocated, I don't think anybody has ever done what he's doing right now. Yeah. And the last time they had a guy score 100 points, it was Eric Stahl in the year they won the Cup, which was the post-lockout season, which was juiced by a ton of power plays. So he's doing this, what he's doing right now is pretty unheard of in general.
Yeah. What is it specifically? Because what I noticed in the offseason is that, this is a guy that showed out in some of those microstats, right? He's big time offensive contribution, shot assist, chance assist, rush plays. On that team too, Carolina, it's not a team that's really known for their rush offense, but he's a guy that does that pretty well. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, he's been an elite player at that for as long as he's been in the league. He's been an elite player on zone entries, elite at generating scoring chances off zone entries, through setting other guys up, creating his own space, kind of just being a one-man show really for years. And this year, it's just pucks are finally going in a lot more than they used to. He had a breakout a couple years ago, or I think he led the team in points, and he would have had. I think he got hurt that season too, so he would have had a pretty nice point total at the end. But this year, it's been just off the charts how good he's been. And I think the extra points are from power plays from being on the first power play unit for one, because Teravainen's gone. They needed somebody else to slide up, and he's pretty much an obvious answer. And I think, what a big change from a couple of years ago was he was always a very high shot volume player. He's a powder keg, I call him, because he pretty much put everything at the net when he entered the zone. It would be from the boards, from the corner, from just anywhere. He put it at the net, hoping somebody would get there. Or they can kind of continue possession that way. But this year he's kind of being a lot more. He started kind of figuring out how to be less of a one-man show in the offensive zone, because he's had a little better supports as far as line mates go, guys who can read off him a little better. He's doing a lot more things in the offensive zone, like slashing in front of the net instead of just kind of circling around, looking for a rebound, waiting to get the puck again.
Yep.
And the real area where he's taken off the last couple of years is generating his own scoring chances, because years before that, he was a high shot volume player, very low scoring chance volume player, average, sometimes below average, a lot of other times.
Right.
But this year, it's just taken off in all three categories. And he's definitely getting some shooting luck too. He's had a few bounces go his way recently with some pucks going off defenders. But he's also if you take away that, he's still probably on pace for 100 points. So this was always in him. It's just a matter of, I think it's just a matter of
just puck luck even.
Yeah.
And do you think there's been sort of a next level? So is this a guy that's sort of ascended maybe another tier in terms of his play?
Yeah, this year I would say so. Because he's definitely generating a lot more good passes through his own playmaking than he did before. And I think, I don't know, I think he's also set up a little better in terms of line mates too, because he has a couple more line mates that are willing to shoot more now. He had Roslovic early in the season, and he's with Jack Drury now. He was with Kokaniemi for a little bit too, and Kokaniemi had a really nice start, kind of being as that support guy.
Yep.
And he got bumped down like 2 weeks ago, and it's with Jack Drury now. And we'll see how long that lasts. Drury's had a couple of nice games with him. I'm not sure if he'll be a long-term fit though. So
Robinson's looked good there too. He's kind of been staple to him a little bit.
Yeah, and like Robinson's a lot faster than some of the other. He's like he's not the most skilled player, but he's probably like the one guy they've put with Necas that can kind of keep up with him in terms of speed, at least recently. Because like Teravainen's always been kind of a slower, more methodical type of player, and the two sometimes they just would not mesh. And Kokaniemi's not really a burner either. So I think that's helped a lot. Like his breakout reminds me a little bit of like Kevin Fiala when he got to Minnesota, because like they've kind of had similar trajectories. Really good, like in the stats that I track. Really good on zone entries. Very good at creating their own shots. Very good at creating scoring chances on their own, but kind of individualistic players. Didn't use their line mates well. Mm-hmm. Not very good defensively always, and it just kind of took a season or two for them to finally break out of it. And that's what Fiala did a couple of years ago, and that's what Necas is doing right now. It's just a matter if he can sustain it like throughout the season and next year, because Fiala is a guy who's kind of seen his production go up and down. And like he's a guy who can, he's a guy that like he's a top line player. It's just the coaches won't always play him on the top line with the star player because they don't trust them. Mm-hmm. And we'll see if that kind of sustains. We'll see if that sustains, because Brendan Moore has kept him and Aho separate for the most part this year. I don't know if that's a trust thing or if that's just we want two scorers on both lines kind of thing. But they kind of have similar usage that way. So he's doing a lot of this now with the guys he's got. So we'll see. How he does when like he eventually gets the top line usage.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, obviously I didn't expect like 130 point pace from Martin Necas. I projected him for 69 points. Very nice. but you know, like he had a 50-point season or whatever last year. Like, what was it? 53 points. But to me, yeah, like it's just that power play that RBA didn't have any options, right? It's like, Necas, you have to go back to the power play. And this is a guy that got 26 power play points in that big season you were talking about in 2022-23. So obviously he's taken it up a notch. He's already at 18 power play points on the year. Damn, that leads the league. That's crazy stuff.
Yeah, and like this kind of, this trust has been there before, because a few years ago, like Necas was getting top power play duty. He was even on the penalty kill for a little bit. So he has been like in the coach's good graces before, just I think he's gotten back there now. He's finally kind of gotten back there now, just because they had no options. Like, you lose Jake Gensel in the offseason, you lose Teravainen, you can't really lose any more scoring. And Necas, like since like the second or third week of the year, he's been the guy and just kind of been a game breaker for them, something they really haven't had really ever.
Do you see, when you're watching the games, because I know Carolina's your team, are they still kind of prioritizing him out there? Or is that kind of even strength deployment sort of up and down?
He's getting a lot more minutes than he used to. It's just Brendan Moore rolls four lines pretty consistently. That's the thing. Like, it's, unless they're in like a really dire spot, he doesn't really empty the gas tank with his top six. Like, he did that in the Rangers game, and he's done it in a couple other games recently when it's been tight. And Necas has been like more of a go-to guy recently there. So it's been good to see that.
Yeah. Well, I do think, last thing on Necas, I do think that, 130 points, not sustainable, but I like what you said about 100 points. Like, I think it's safe to say this is going to fall off. His shooting percentage, the on-ice shooting percentage, that's going to fall off.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's going to fall off from 130 point pace, right? It's he's already put a bunch of points on the board. So I think like 90 to 100 points for Necas is probably where he lives this year. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's going to end up close to that, because he's got to go like an entire month without getting a point for him to not hit 100 right now. That's how wild this has been.
That's so epic, man. I'm so glad that I had him on some players of interest show. He was on our sleeper list, and it's popping off. That doesn't always happen. So
he went undrafted in my league.
Yeah,
And I only got him because Robert Thomas got hurt and I had an open spot.
There you go.
So,
All right. You know what? You made the right decision, Corey. All right. With Necas, we ride till the wheels fall off. That's what's happening. All right. That's the good. Let's talk about the bad in Carolina. Andrei Svechnikov. I just wanted to get your quick take on this player and maybe what's going on with him. And, I've noticed that he's moving up and down the lineup here as of late. And what is it with this player where he can't really get over the hump offensively? Is it strictly deployment? Does RBA not trust him? Is it bad penalties? Is it consistency? Like what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, this year it's a lot of it is just finishing, and this has kind of been a frustrating topic with Svechnikov because this is a guy they drafted to be their goal scorer,
Yep.
like he was in junior and like he was in his rookie season. And it just has not been there for a long time now. And I'm kind of starting to wondering if it'll ever happen or if he's just going to be one of these guys that's a high offensive driver that gets you like 70 points in a peak year, which is still like you don't throw those guys out still, especially if they're driving play as well as he does on a top line. Like that's worth having around, but it's kind of just like there's another level there that you kind of is there, but you're wondering if it's ever going to like show, which is the thing they had, which is the conundrum they had with Necas too. The difference is Necas didn't have a contract. Svechnikov is under contract for a long time.
Yeah.
And he's another person or another player whose scoring chance volume has kind of dipped the last couple of seasons, last year especially, but his playmaking is elite. His vision's elite. He's incredible at making plays from like the slot area, from behind the net too. He's crafty, and that's also like it's something people kind of like I don't know throw out when evaluating him because he's viewed as a goal scorer, but he's an elite playmaker, and I feel like that's something you can't just toss aside.
Yep.
And this year it's partly bad luck. Part of it is Aho has not been he hasn't been playing to his standard this year, and I feel like Svechnikov has kind of taken the heat for it because like Aho is kind of viewed as Mr. Consistency there, and he's had both of them have very sluggish starts. But to me, every night, like when I watch them, Svechnikov is the one that kind of has the drive going. Like he's got the puck most of the time. He's creating a lot of the entries. He's the one that's got the puck on his stick most of the time, and Aho is not creating as much as he usually does. Like especially in volume, especially from a line that's like a very high shot volume, shot generation type of line. So I think he's going to eventually get back. It's just a matter of like what his ceiling is long term. But I think I'm less worried about him. Like the penalties are part of his game, unfortunately. I don't think he's ever going to break out of that. Sadly, part of it is like the refs kind of know he's the refs like know what he does and he has a reputation, so he's always going to get called. But another thing is that's just who he is. But
edgy player.
Yeah, so I think that I'm not as concerned about him. Like I do have concerns about his long-term ceiling is, but I think he's going to get back on track this year. But that line in general with Aho, I think there is some like issues under the hood there. Or it could be just another sluggish start that Aho has been very prone to in his career.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, and Jarvis was out too. Like, I guess at the beginning of the year, it was Aho, Jarvis, and Svech, which is a ridiculous line on paper. But yeah, it wasn't exactly cooking. It was bubbling under the surface, but not really converting.
Yeah. Another thing was like Roslovic was the one getting all the goals on that line too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Like the pucks were going in. It was just from him instead of those two.
Yeah, not from the guys we drafted in the 4th round, but from Roslovic. It was a waiver wire ad, for God's sake. But that's fine. Okay, well, that's good to hear about Svech. Yeah, it's just a player that we get a lot of comments on in our Discord, especially because people are ticked, right, because of this potential. I forget too with Svechnikov, like he's only 24. This guy's been in the league for a long time, so there's still lots of headroom for Svechnikov. But yeah, it's like you said, it's that finishing you would hope to kind of see sort itself out. But I definitely think he's got to get back on that line with Aho there to really reach the potential. All right, let's move over to another team that I know you've been tracking a little bit here, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and 2 players specifically there, Brandon the Bagel Hagel and Anthony Cirelli. What the hell are these 2 players doing? They're on heaters right now, and I've talked about them a little bit. Just my real quick evaluation there is that Hagel might be not similar to Necas, but similar to Necas, sorry, in a way that he's maybe leveling up a little bit, where he's kind of becoming just a little bit of a better player. This is already a guy that got 74 points in a season, and now he's doing even better. But Cirelli to me is a clear outlier here. Like he's just on fire right now. The luck metrics are going crazy. I wanted to get your thoughts on both players, and just tell me kind of what you're seeing there from Hagel and Cirelli.
Yeah, Hagel's a player that I've liked for a while. Like even when he was in Chicago, he always kind of had that. He had a lot of very good puck skill. He was always a very good player on entries. I just wasn't sure if he'd be like an energy line type of player or a guy who could like be a top liner, because he's kind of like in that in between zone for a while. He goes to Tampa, shows glimpses of being a top line player, but it would always kind of there was always the caveat of who he was playing with there. And now Stamkos is gone. He hasn't been stapled to Kucherov this year, as far as I know, because Gensel's had that spot.
Yep.
But he's looked very good for like 3 years now in my data, where he's been like a driver of entries, a driver of quick strike offense. And he's been like I think in my data, he's been one of the leaders in goals off exits, which is pretty important in Tampa Bay with how they run their offense, because getting that quick strike offense is kind of how they've been lived and died the last couple of years, because they haven't been able to really be that territorial team that they used to be. They've had to kind of live and die off getting like, I kind of describe it, they want one great chance from their top line and from like when Victor Hedman's out there, while giving up two or three okay chances.
Yeah, they'll live with it.
So it's like in the aggregate, they're getting outshot and outchanced, but the chance they're getting, they'll take over the two or three they give up. And Hagel's been a big part of that, just from his speed and just from like how much space he generates on his own. And his own like shooting playmaking's come a long way too. So I think he's definitely a safe pick as far as like sustainability. It just kind of depends if your league I don't know how your league scores penalties, but mine penalizes you for hits and penalties, and I always got screwed by him in that for a couple of years. Well, not a couple of years, but like there's like
he took a bunch last year.
Well, yeah, so like we do week by week, and like he cost me a few weeks from just like being negative 25 from having like a game misconduct or something. So I'm in a kind of an unorthodox scoring league too, so mine doesn't always line up with like the general public.
Right.
But Hagel, he's pretty consistent. Cirelli, like he's never really scored like this before. He's always had like the skill to be somebody like this though. Although it's interesting with him because he's kind of gone up and down in terms of being like a huge difference maker in terms of driving play and on entries. I think maybe he's had to up his game a little bit this year.
Yep.
Because everybody in Tampa Bay's had to carry a little more weight just from how much that top six is getting leaned on now. And Cirelli might be doing that. He's always been a pretty high percentage shooter because he shoots from so in close. Like he relies a lot on rebounds. He relies a lot on close range chances, which like, I mean, in your head, you think those are sustainable because they're high percentage plays, but rebounds aren't always going to be there every game, if that makes any sense. Because like some teams are better at boxing you out than the others, especially when they know you're a guy, especially when they know you're a team that like kind of fights for rebounds and a team that relies on them. They know to box you out and force you to the perimeter a little more. So you can't always bank on them happening every game. So Cirelli's a little more volatile, but he's going to probably have a career season from the looks of it.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's on an 82-point pace. I mean, based off of massive efficiency, but yeah, everything you're saying absolutely tracks. Like this is a guy that's usually in close to the net, right? I'm noticing on your player card here. Yeah, he's got his deflections. Like he's pretty good at deflections per 60 as well. So obviously that's the highest percentage shot you can pretty much do if you get it on net. So
Cirelli's a tricky one because like he's always been good and he's always been good. He's always been pretty good at like driving entries too. It's just always in a shutdown role. But he's always kind of been in that like 50, 60th percentile range where his effectiveness kind of fluctuates every year rather than being like in that top tier players.
Yep, I think I'm interested in Anthony Cirelli for sure. One thing I do like about the player is his consistent ice time. Like this is a guy that just eats minutes out there. He obviously has the confidence of the coach, but yeah, this offensive explosion, I don't think that's exactly real. 82-point pace, no, but I mean, like you said, I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. He's going to have a career high, maybe 60. 55 to 60 points for Anthony Cirelli. Bang. That's pretty nice for a guy that was on nobody's fantasy hockey radar to start the year. That's for sure.
Yeah, and well, I think Point was. He also had to play on the top line for a little bit too, because Point was out for like a couple of weeks. So you get Kucherov there, points are just kind of going to come to you through osmosis.
Yeah, and Kucherov still could be out, could miss a couple games. So
yeah, he's out too. Yeah,
it's Cirelli season. All right, let's move on to another team that I know you've dug into as well, that we get a ton of questions on, and me personally as well. I'm getting destroyed by this team, the Dallas Stars, one of the most frustrating teams for fantasy, no question, because you've got big time studs, quote unquote studs: Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz, Wyatt Johnston. Not really getting to biz, but Matt Duchene, Mason Marchment, and the newly injured Tyler Seguin are popping the hell off. So, yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on Dallas as a team. And first off, maybe just that line with Duchene, what they're doing well, and then just maybe talk quickly on what's going on with Jason Robertson and Rupe Hintz, and why are their seasons not going as well.
Yeah, they're a very odd team this year too, because they've been so reliant on the rush this year for their offense, and usually they're a team that kind of hovers in that 50% range. But as far as like how often they carry the puck in, but this year like they're close to 60% with carrying the puck in, which that's very unlike them, and it's very unlike a Pete DeBoer team to do. Because like DeBoer teams, they love to cycle, they love their point shots. This year it's been like more reliant on the transition play. But that also feeds into what Matt Duchene does really well. Like Duchene's been one of the top players in terms of entries and entries leading to chances for like a couple of years now. Not too different from Necas, like just with how like reliant he is on that for his offense. And it's been a big boon to their offense this year, especially the chemistry he's had with Mason Marchment.
Yeah.
And Marchment, I think I like, you remember in Florida, he got the big contract. He had a really productive season there, and his first season there was after his father died. And I think he just had kind of a rough like transition like to Dallas in his first year. But since then, he's been as advertised as that's like as that like quasi top six player, big body, gets open really well, really good shooter too, really really smart player. So I think like the chemistry there is really worked in their favor. And also Logan Stankoven's been outstanding this year too as the third wheel on that line. And they've been jumbling the lineup around too a lot and gotten results with like kind of just a multitude of different options. And Stankoven's kind of been that like Swiss Army knife type of player. Like yep. He's not like, except for like producing offense, he doesn't really like stand out as like a star that much in my data, but what he does really well is he just gets shots and he gets chances at like an elite level, and like he allows the other guys to kind of do their work. Like Marchment will go to the net, Duchene will be the one to carry the puck, or Wyatt Johnston will be the one to carry the puck, and he can kind of just do whatever hole needs to be filled there. And I think it's really helped Duchene kind of have this start that he's had. Well, his games really come around like the last 4 seasons, I want to say, like since he had that 40-goal season in Nashville.
Yep.
Like he's kind of figured out how to use his skills to his advantage, use his speed to his advantage, well, kind of be the kind of guy who can get one great chance rather than like 6 okay chances during his shifts, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like to kind of like poach for better plays off the counter attack and off the rush. And like on the wall too, he's done a very good job of kind of he's done a really good job of kind of getting lost along the wall, protecting the puck and letting other guys get open, like instead of kind of like cutting to the net himself, like he used to do that a lot. So yeah, I think he's kind of been just like what the he's basically been like kind of the engine for that Stars offense with just how they play. And like as a counter to it, like it's kind of hurt Jason Robertson a little bit because Robertson's never really been like an excellent player off the rush just because he can't really skate. Well, I mean, he can skate, like he's an NHL player, he can skate, obviously, but like he's slow and he's kind of he's slow, he's kind of brick footed. He's a methodical player. His thing is being 2 steps ahead of everybody in terms of like where he's going with the puck. And this year he's just kind of had he's had like an issue kind of transitioning to the way the Stars are playing now. So it's been tougher for him to kind of create instant offense the way he used to. And I think he also, I mean, he had one year where he was like unbelievable, but I think he's more of like an 80, 90 point player instead of like a 100-point player just because like of how unorthodox he is with like creating his offense. Like it's not exactly the most like sustainable from year to year because he relies so much on just getting himself open and kind of like reading off his line mates. And he's had that consistency with his line mates forever too. And now things are changing a little bit with Joe Pavelski gone. So like he's got a different environment to get used to now, new line mates to get used to. So I think the transition for him has been a little rough, but I think he'll bounce back eventually because he's had a few very good games recently because with what I've watched, he's just not getting on the score sheet as much, but it's like one of those games where he'll have like a 1-point night or something like that. Nothing outstanding, but he's still like getting his points. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like Eric Stahl during like the back half of his career, like around the time he went to Minnesota. So I think he's so I think he'll be fine like once he kind of adjusts to this. And Roope Hintz hasn't really been like the playing at the level that we're used to seeing from him either. And he's kind of been their catalyst off the rush, like for that line for the longest time. So I think it'll take some time and they'll have a good second half of the year.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing too because Dallas is winning games. Like they're playing very well. Yeah. So what is their catalyst to change this all?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting because like they're so deep, and like I picked them to win the West, and I think they're eventually going to be I think they're going to come out of the West this year because they're so deep, and I think this is actually good for them too, because like they're doing really well right now with their top players not going at the level that they should, and they've had to adjust to a completely different style of playing because teams have kind of caught on to them and their old tricks through the years. And I think they're adding new layers, new dimensions to their game. They're getting really good production from young players too, is the thing.
Yep.
And like Wyatt Johnson, he's also not producing like how we're used to or how we expected him to. And I think he's going to have a better second half because he's getting absolutely like screwed in terms of like shooting percentage right now. And he's a high volume chance creator. And I think the shoe is going to drop there at some point. And I think that's kind of also affecting like why Robertson and Hintz are like not as productive. Because like, I don't know, one guy, I don't know, there's like a chain effect when one player is getting like screwed by shooting percentages because that means other guys aren't getting assists. And when it's a guy that shoots the puck as much as Wyatt Johnson does, it has kind of a trickle down effect on the rest of the lineup. Yeah. But their power play is also atrocious too. They have to figure that out, and that I'm kind of at a loss for words because
put one out there. I hate that. But when you got a guy like Matt Duchene and that second power play is almost better than the first power play, it's like I just find that these 1A, 1B power plays, like I can't think of too many teams where that actually works besides like the LA Kings, a couple years ago or whatever, where they've got two good power play lines and they're getting the biz. But yeah, I noticed that with Robertson in particular, like his power play numbers, horrid, right? Just like I think I would love to see him out there for, getting that 70% power play share, but it's just not happening right now.
Yeah. And like, with that, I'm just like kind of at a loss for words and like trying to figure out how to explain it because they can't really do anything, right? Like for lack of a better term, they just can't find anything really that works right now. Like they can't enter the zone. They can't get set up. They don't really have like, I don't know, they don't really have like a design play to go to either with any of those guys. And I just wonder I kind of just wonder if this is where like Robertson's like a foot speed hurts them because
Yeah,
like teams
and he
kind
had
of
that injury going into the season as well. Like what I think it was a foot injury. So has that might have affected him as well? I don't know, but
yeah.
yeah, it's been rough, especially I picked him up in the third round in one spot. Like I wasn't expecting the 109-point J Rob, but certainly wasn't expecting 48-point J Rob. Right? This isn't a Jonathan Huberdeau situation. This guy can play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know where would you see him rest the season?
Let's see, where's he at now? So let's see, just looking at, let's see where he's at now. So he's got 14 and 24. Yeah,
It's
that's
ugly.
worse. Yeah, that's worse than I thought, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky with Dallas because like almost everybody on their team looks pretty good by my stats and like what they're doing in terms of like shot and chance creation. He's just he is a touch off like scoring chance creation, because like a few years ago this guy was one of the best like in the league in chance creation. Now he's kind of just like in a good spot, like above average, but it's not elite like where he should be. So yeah, I think I think he's gonna end up like in this like close to 70-ish, I would say.
Okay, you know what? I would take that at this point. Give me 70. That sounds fine. Because things have been pretty stanky here. With J Rob. All right. Corey, I want to move on here because I want to respect your time here, but we do have a couple mailbag questions that some of our listeners and people in our Discord asked. So I want to get to those real quick. If you're good to go with that.
Yeah.
All right, man. First question we got here. Are there any players who are currently standouts in shot assist statistics who aren't getting a lot of assists relative to that number? And just anyone you can sort of identify there. And second part to that was, is this a result of poor shooting or other factors kind of surrounding that player?
Yeah, one interesting name that really stuck out to me, like in the first wave of data that I released, was Zach Bolduc in St. Louis. And this is a
crazy.
Yeah, he's a rookie, very young player, but like early in the season, he had a pretty insane number of shot assists, a lot of like towards the beginning of the season, like with only 10 games granted, he was like towards the top of the league, and now he's kind of in the above average territory. Like he has more shot assists per 60 minutes than Robert Thomas, which is kind of insane. And he's a lower line player. Well, actually, no, he's not a lower line player, because like when the Blues play him, early on they were playing him with Buchnevich, and they were playing him with some of their top line players. And yesterday against Winnipeg, he was on the third line.
Yep.
And he did stand out in that game to me. He had a couple of breakaways. He's very like just from like kind of reviewing his like footage, he's very good at using his upper body to separate himself from the puck, very good at playing along the wall to get the puck to the middle, really good on the cycle, really good at kind of springing guys off the rush too. So he has a lot of skills that will translate like when he eventually gets those minutes. Just a matter of getting the trust from the coaches and getting the regular playing time. He's only got 5 assists and like 7 points now this year, granted, but I think he's somebody that can do could do pretty well like once he gets higher in the lineup. So I think not a fantasy standout yet. We'll see by the end of the season, but some of these guys that kind of like stick out to me in a really type of way. When I first look at the data, like they eventually have good seasons at the end of the year. So we'll see with him.
No, and this guy's got acumen too. I mean, he was a first rounder in 2021. Just digging in here, he's only played 45 games in the league. That's very interesting. That'll be a player that, at least I'm looking at moving forward, just kind of to see how he progresses, because obviously he's going to need the coach's trust, and he's going to need a boatload of deployment. Right? He's playing under 12 minutes a game, but he's still just a rookie. So
he was somebody they were kind of auditioning early in the season, like when they were playing Buchnevich at center. So we'll see how he is, especially with Montgomery there, because he got the Bruins scoring at a pretty high rate and got some good minutes as some pretty like middling players there in Boston for a while.
Yeah.
So we'll see how Bolduc does there. And I don't know, St. Louis is such like it's such like a conglomerate of players there, like on the wings. So like there's going to be an opportunity for him eventually.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. That's very interesting. Let's move on to the second question here. This listener wants to know about zone entries and exits. He says, Corey, when does an entry or exit become failed or successful? And then second part to that, is there a 1 to 2 second threshold where the player has kept possession, or is it until they successfully pass, shoot, or dump the puck in?
So with me, it's a 2 second threshold after you gain the line. That's a successful zone entry. So like it's a successful zone entry 2 seconds after you gain the line for me. Like I kind of use that as my baseline throughout like all of my tracking, just so it stays consistent with everything. And that's also why I have like the extra layers on zone entries, like see if they like marking if they made a pass, marking if they create a shot, create a scoring chance, just to kind of weed out some of the empty calorie players. Because like eventually sometimes there's like one or two guys that kind of like are known for just like wasting entries by getting rid of the puck shortly after.
Right.
Usually it's like a lot of young players who are like either kind of figuring out their way or like out of the league in a few years. And with an exit, it kind of depends on what the like goal is of the exit, if that makes any sense. Because like if you're clearing the puck, my definition is it has to go over the red line and it can't be picked off by an opposing player. And like if you're like clearing the puck and trying to get a line change, your guys have to get off too for me to mark it as a successful exit via clear. Also through passing too, because like if it gets picked off like before the red line, even if it's a successful pass, it's a failed exit, except it's on the guy that received the puck and turned it over.
Right. Okay.
So like there's different like subjective categories for that, but there's different subjective categories for that with exits, but that's kind of my guideline there.
Yeah, I like that. Just pulling back the curtain a little bit. Like I would love to just watch you track a game or like see what you consider all these different things. That would be an interesting exercise for me. But yeah, that's good stuff. I'll give you one last one here. One of our listeners wants to hear your thoughts on Macklin Celebrini, and maybe you could throw Will Smith in there too. Just those two players. What are you seeing out there? Do you think that they are as advertised?
Celebrini looks as good as advertised, and maybe even better. I didn't really know much about him, just I don't really follow prospects that much. But Celebrini looks like a first overall pick. Like he looks better as Jack Hughes did as a rookie. He looks, I don't want to say as good or better than Bedard as a rookie because it's kind of hard to it's hard to say. Like Bedard looks unbelievable for like a few months there, like in his rookie season, and Celebrini's been he's been outstanding like early on. Like in my tracking, he leads the Sharks in shot assists for 60 minutes already. And like he's already very good at entries, already probably already easily the best player on the Sharks there. Good at generating scoring chances. He's also been like good at excelling like in the weeds of the game too, like kind of taking hits to make plays, kind of being the connecting guy on a pass to set up a shot or set up an entry. And he's just been doing a lot of things. He's been doing just so many of the little things, and he makes at least one what I call oh shit plays every game. Like when I watch the Sharks, even when they're getting like destroyed or demolished, like there's at least when he's out there, like he usually makes something happen for the Sharks, and he's done very well. He's done very well so far. Just I do kind of worry like how often he's going to get like hit though. But that's just something you worry about with all rookies like this who feel like handling the puck as much as him. And Will Smith hasn't. Early on he was playing with nobodies, and he was a brand new player in the league. So I kind of like wash out that first month with the Sharks. But lately he's been looking better. He's been very good at. He's been good at like kind of being the trailing guy off an entry with a skilled player like an Eklund or somebody. And he's been very good at kind of following them and hitting the open guy through through a seam. He's
a great playmaker.
And like he's not really like the catalyst or the driver, but he's good as like the secondary guy who can make the high skill play when a lane is open. And that's a really good way like for a young player to kind of get in the league and kind of get his feet wet and get his confidence up too. Because you want to see results and you want to see plays in action, like if you're a rookie. And I think Smith's kind of found his niche with that the last couple of weeks. The Sharks aren't on my list, but they've played a lot of teams that are on my list though, so I have a decent amount of their games, and I've been able to kind of follow them a little bit.
Yeah. It's a fun team. I remember digging in on the Sharks a little bit in the offseason here, and Nate and I were kind of like, yeah, are we excited about this team? Like, kind of, William Eklund's another guy based on microstats that I sort of identified as a guy that I was excited about. And one thing with Eklund that I loved so far this year, big time minutes, like 20 minutes a night for Eklund. That's insane. And then Mikael Granlund obviously popping the hell off. I don't know what's got into this man, but that's another player that looks like he's kind of taken the minutes and running and kind of up his game a little bit.
Yeah, I think Granlund getting the minutes was a big thing with him because he was the guy for them last year. And he doesn't have to be the guy eventually, but he's going to be like he's going to like pass the torch off to like Celebrini when he's ready to take the spot. And I don't know, you can do I know he had a rough like end of his career in Nashville, but you could do a lot worse than him as like a placeholder type of guy.
Yeah, clearly. I love what I'm seeing in this guy.
Yeah, Eklund's interesting. Like Eklund was interesting to me because like I feel like there's like an asterisk as to how bad the Sharks were last year.
Right.
To see if anybody had any sort of like promise there was a good thing. Like anybody who didn't have a card that was all red all around, I was like, okay, you got some promise.
Yeah,
that was
actually at least. They aren't red.
That was Eklund last year. I'm like, okay, you're doing this with like basically a borderline AHL team, and like this is above average. And like he showed some really good like offensive skills. He's really good at like he's really good below the goal line from the corner. So I think that was so like that definitely translates into kind of being somebody that could be a difference maker offensively long term. Like just kind of I don't know, when I see a guy who can kind of fit in that way, like off the cycle, kind of creating the small plays that end up being big plays, that to me that's kind of like what tells me what's going to make you stick around more than somebody that's just like a elite player off the rush, like in his rookie year.
Yeah. And I'm always happy to see those minutes, especially for a young player, because there's a ton of young players that have this amazing talent like Will Smith, but they don't get the minutes. Right. And because there's probably defensive deficiencies or whatever, whereas Eklund obviously has the coach's trust. I'm not saying he's some defensive stalwart, but he obviously is able to do what the coach wants and get out there for big minutes. So we're excited about the San Jose Sharks this year, and it feels good. Ryan Warsofsky has come as advertised as well, said this team's going to be a lot more fun to watch, and they are.
Yeah, they really are. I've actually like willingly watched a lot of their games.
I know. Yeah, they're. I'm into it. I'm into it for sure, and I love those unis. I love the teal shark, like with that's one of my favorites, like from back in the day. So, anyways, buddy, that's it. That is the podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show here. Again, it's always an open invite. I love chatting with you, Corey, and getting this information here. Why don't you just let the listeners know where they can find you, what you got going on, and again, when this stuff's going to be released, so we can consume your content.
Yeah, you can go to all3zones.com. That's kind of the hub for all my stuff, all of my socials. That's where you can like find subscription or buy subscriptions to my data. Like $10 a month gets you access to all the charts, all the player cards, all that stuff. And there's also other tiers if you want me to prioritize your team so you can get this data quicker. Like that's also an option. And you can follow me at Shutdownline on Twitter or X or whatever. And I'm at All Three Zones on Blue Sky. I've been posting there a lot more recently just because that's where a lot of the hockey people are migrating to. And I also have a Substack, all3zones.substack.com. And I write there periodically. I'm going to be trying to write more, a little more regularly now. That's I'm kind of like, I don't know, I always have like a brain fog whenever I'm tracking all these games and such. Sure. I never really know what to focus on. And then eventually like the light bulb comes off and I get kind of this wave of productivity, or I start writing a lot more. So yeah, be on the lookout for more posts there on Substack. And I think that covers it all.
Yeah, buddy. You're a legend. I love that Substack stuff. Actually, you just released something recently here, so shout out to you. Just some Matt Duchene action. You want to see some Matt Duchene? Corey Sznajder's got you covered. I actually was watching that just the little highlight clips that you did there, and this guy's amazing. Like you said, off the wall, just his ability to set up chances in tight. He's a fun player to watch. I cannot talk Yang on Matt Duchene ever again. That's sort of where I'm at. But buddy, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that. And thank you listeners for checking us out. We got more content on the way. We got our waiver wire show. We got our flagship show coming up this weekend. But until then, thank you so much, everybody. Celebrate your day. Bye for now.